This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Your hosts are Seth Jacobson and Patrick Heiler.
Chapter 10, Secrets. And our symbol is the blazing sun. Am I saying that right? Blazing sun? Sunburst? Sunburst. That's it.
Yeah. I was kind of like, blazing sun? Not blazing saddles. That's a movie.
Ignoring her companions for a moment, Egwene Elvire stood in her stirrups hoping for a glimpse of Tarvalon in the distance. But all she could see was something indistinct, gleaming white in the morning light. It had to be the city on the island, though. The lone, broken-topped mountain called Dragon Mount, rising out of the rolling plain, had first appeared on the horizon late the afternoon before, and that lay just this side of the River Aranon from Tarvalon. It was a landmark, that mountain, one jagged fang, sticking out of the rolling flatlands, easily seen for many miles, easy to avoid, as all did, even those who went to Tarvalon. Dragon Mount was where Luththerin Kinslayer had died, so it was said, and other words had been spoken of the mountain, prophecy and warning, rich reasons to stay away from its black slopes.
I always kind of pictured it as a single peak, but I guess the top is broken, so it's jagged.
Several small peaks, or several, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
A broken tooth. Yeah, there's some really good fan art out there.
So the first thing I want to talk about is just that Egwene is having some dreams.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of, Anaya's have no real evidence that Egwene was a dreamer.
But
she clearly is.
Yes, and people don't really know very much about dreaming. So I always wondered why, well, I guess someone has to try to figure out if Egwene is a dreamer or not, if there's one potentially in the tower. But like, how qualified is someone who isn't a dreamer at detecting, someone who knows, like, read the book that, is it Corinne
Nadil? Yeah.
Yeah, wrote like 400 years ago or something. And that's all the information that anyone really seems to have.
I mean, it seems like Anya just happens to know more than any other Aes Sedai about dreams, but she's certainly no expert.
Hmm.
Because, you know, the wise ones recognize Egwene as a dreamer right away. And, like, yeah, Anaya has no way to test them. She's just sort of like, well, I guess we'll see. And if something happens that you predicted, then we'll know. But, like, there's no scientific method to go about testing them.
Yeah. And they don't seem to know anything at all about Teleran Riyadh. Yeah.
No, barely. I mean, Varen might know something because she's read those notes.
That's the picture that I used in an Instagram post. Yeah, I like that one. And it's a semi-active volcano? Dragon Mount, that is.
Well, I mean, he did drill a hole right through down into the core, so I'd assume that it occasionally still erupts, as we're seeing on Hawaii right now.
Yeah.
300 years is no time whatsoever geologically. He might as well have drilled the hole yesterday. So I wouldn't be surprised. Yeah, there's a lake of lava at the top. If you go all the way up, you can sort of look down into it and see.
I mean, I guess if you create a big enough explosion, you could do, well, we're talking about magic here.
Right. I think of it more as like he put a vertical hole directly down through the core into the mantle.
Yeah.
And that just lava's pouring straight up through it. And that's why it's so tall. Yeah, 3,000 years just isn't very long, geologically speaking.
Sure.
And, you know, this was rolling plains, and then all of a sudden, boom. And that's why it's also very sharp, because it hasn't had time to really weather or age.
So she had dreams about Rand running towards something and away from something. And we know what that's about.
Running towards the sword. What do you think he's running away from? His friends?
His fate?
Or
no.
Moraine?
Running away from Moraine. Running away from responsibility?
Yeah.
He seemed really hung up on the Dragonsworn and people dying in his name.
His responsibility.
Yeah.
We get another update on Egwene and Galad. She's still crushing on Galad. She's not interested in Gawain yet. We're well into the third book, and we're seeing her totally crush on the taller, older, stricter brother.
Everyone's crushing on Galad.
I'm kind of crushing on Galad. I just want to know when she switches.
I don't know. These things happen. Availability, maybe? I wonder what Discord thinks. Yeah, Elaine talks a lot of shit about Galad.
She does.
It doesn't help to have a friend that like hates the person that you want to date.
But she's been talking shit the whole time, and they've been writing back. It's not like she hasn't been like, yeah, he sucks, I hate him. Like, he's not my fucking brother. Like, she's been saying that the entire ride.
Yeah, and I mean, she's crushing a little, but like, how much have they actually hung out? They like met in a hallway once? Is that it? That might be it. I'm sure they've run into each other here and there, but like...
I mean, that's classic Jordan writing, where he doesn't actually show you any time they spend together, and people are like, when did they meet? They were in the tower together for quite some time. He was training and she was in the apprenticing up there, and she probably didn't have a lot of socializing time, but they could have definitely met many times and flirted and all that kind of stuff. They went for
did they ever do the picnic in the garden thing?
Yeah, they went for long walks in the garden together. Yeah, I think it's an off-screen thing, but I have to assume that over the months they were both in Tar Valon together, there was a fair amount of interaction, flirting, all that sort of stuff. The next thing I have is just her and Nynaeve sort of butting heads.
Yeah, really only noted here because it stuck out to me because I don't know if I had it in my head wrong, but this says the two women were of a height. Nynaeve and Egwene. I was like, huh. I always thought Nynaeve was taller.
Yeah. I feel like it's between like 5'8", 5'7", and 5'6".
Yeah.
It's like, I always think of Nynaeve as a little bit taller, but...
I always thought of Egwene as short. But you never see a measurement, so you kind of base it on other characters' height.
You say that, and then people quote the companion at us, which does list the heights.
Well, okay.
Yeah.
How tall is Egwene?
We've looked at this before.
5'4". That's... Oh, Nynaeve is 5'4"? Did you guys see Narg the Trollocs post about
heights?
Robert Jordan and height?
His height fetish. I mean, just because
funny.
he was so damn tall doesn't mean everyone else can be so damn tall.
I like this. Let's theorize about who Narg might be. Bambi said, is it Jason Denzel? Secretly.
Oh, no, because he just right on Dragon Mount.
Probably. I mean, yeah. Here's another thing we can't confirm or deny: the identity of Narg. It doesn't seem like it would be Jason's style.
No, it's not Jason's style at all. He's too bombastic. Yeah, Jeff Bezos, that would be fucking fantastic. So just sort of talking about the relative positions between the two girls, how for a while Nynaeve was wisdom and Egwene was just a girl.
Yeah.
And now Nynaeve is accepted and Egwene is just a novice.
Right.
And how that's sort of making it really frustrating for her to kind of be in the same situation, to be under her power.
When is Egwene's accepted testing? Is it in this book?
Yeah. It's in like, she's
soon,
raised
right?
to accepted when they get to the White Tower.
Though they do it right away?
Yeah, they do it right away.
I only read up, well, on this most recent reread, I'm only read up to like a couple chapters from here. So when Swan's like, I'm going to use you to hunt the Black Aja, and they're like, that is stupid. And she's like, well, I don't have any other options.
No, Aradia has made us promise to have her on for chapter 22, which is where Egwene is raised.
Oh, yeah.
So,
a long time ago, I remember that.
And then I like Egwene snipes back at Lan, or at Nynaeve, saying, do you wonder how Moraine is treating Lan? It's so dirty. It's so dirty. I want to like throw a flag.
Deflected.
Yeah. Foul on the play.
She asked sweetly and had a moment of pleasure at the sharp jerk Nynaeve gave her braid. The pleasure faded quickly, though. That is really petty. Nynaeve asks about Egwene's dreams. Blames Moraine about everything going wrong some more.
She's good at that.
Yeah. And then we see Nynaeve saying that, I'm afraid we have something to worry about ourselves. Something is not right. I can feel it. Do you know what? Egwene asks. It feels almost like a storm. And we see Nynaeve have this feeling quite a bit in the future. We've speculated on it before, and I think we agree that it has something to do with listening to the wind.
Sure.
But now she's, instead of sensing the weather, she's sensing political events, which is what she's more firmly tied to, as opposed to when she was living as not a farmer, but in a farming community.
I think someone wrote in and described it as like delving the world, and I thought that was a clever description.
I like that. And I'm calling them political events, but that's vague. I should probably make it a vaguer description because it's not just politics, but you know.
Yeah, and I think in particular she's referring here to their encounter with the White Cloaks.
Oh, the White Cloaks?
Yeah, I mean, what else do you think she's describing?
I don't know. They got scared off pretty easily. I mean, I would be scared off too. Bambi saying Kalendor and Rand's journey. I always thought the storm was like Tarman Gaiden, or like, you know, the building events of the war between the shadow and the light.
That's, yes, definitely. But it's, you know, just the way that like Matt has the dice rolling in his head that were kind of refer to specific events that come and go. I think that, yes, she also sort of has that like Tarman Gaiden sense as they get closer, but I think that her storm sense refers to events that are happening between then and now as well.
That's a good way to put it. Also, we see Swan saying later that the girls are very lucky. No one knows they were tied to Leandrin, and if anyone were to find out, the Hall might just vote to still them all, in case.
Right, because, you know.
Because, yeah.
Dark friends.
I said I were murdered.
Right.
And, yeah, the girls are incredibly lucky that they're wrapped up in these events, and they don't know that Swan is their ally, but she is.
She's a huge ally of theirs. Yeah, absolutely. They at least at this point, they kind of refer to her as the Amerlin. She is the office. They don't really know her that well.
Right.
They haven't really met her. They've only seen her.
And they don't know that Moraine and Swan conspired years ago to find the Rand.
Right. They don't understand the depth of the conspiracy between those two.
Egwene describes them being like a couple of ruffians tried to rob them in one village. And was there dark friends in another? I can't remember. Could that have to do with the dagger? I doubt it. Because if it had something to do with the dagger, then it would also be affecting Varen, Nynaeve, Egwene.
I think she has the right. She just says they're people trying to rob them for their horses and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's accurate.
Oh, yeah. It happened.
Right. No, I'm just wondering, like, do you think why they tried to rob them? Do you think they were dark friends, or do you think they were dark friends going after the dagger because they could sense it?
Probably not. They probably just saw 3 women, a middle-aged man, and a really sick kid who clearly have a bunch of money and resources and horses, and we're like, well, that'll be easy.
Right. I think it's what Jordan's trying to do there is point out the fact that Huron's sense of trouble, you know, he hasn't told them about his ability to smell the violence on folks. And so he rides in this town. And he says, well, I can smell this. They're robbing strangers. That's just what they do in this town. They're robbing and murdering strangers. I can smell it. It's trouble.
And I think in Egwene's story, they show up and Huron's like, we need to leave right now. And they're like, we're tired. Like, we'll deal with whatever it is.
And they're trying to be killed in the middle of the night.
And so the second time, Huron's like, we should probably go. They just leave.
Totally. And that's why they give him so much credit here when he warns them the third time that, hey, these writers are trouble. So I think a lot of what this chapter is it's priming the girls to get really, really scared before they encounter the writers. So they have Nynaeve's A Storm is Coming. They have Huron's These Writers Are Trouble.
Something smells fishy.
And then on top of that, there's all the PTSD of having been captured and Egwene not wanting to be captured or imprisoned in any way again, and like not acting rationally in reaction to those sorts of events.
She also mentions, we didn't bring this up before, but before she talks about what I think are prophetic dreams about Rand, she talks about nightmares about the Shan-Chan, and I think those are just regular people nightmares.
They could be. They could also be foretelling of the tower being attacked by the Shan-Chan, which we know she does get those dreams frequently and early.
See if it says.
I couldn't figure out which one it was. It was just dreams of the Shan-Chan. It didn't mention the White Tower. It didn't mention.
It doesn't say anything.
Yeah,
just that she wakes up sweating.
Right. So I agree with you. I think they're post PTSD stress dreams, but I want to pay attention from when those shift from post PTSD dreams to pre Attack on the White Tower dreams, because at some point she does start getting dreams of the Shan,
Yeah.
and that they are going to attack the White Tower.
How long from now is the attack on the tower?
A long time.
Estimate like a year?
Yeah, well, I mean, the last battle's in like a year.
Jesus, is it really that fast?
So much time passes in the first 3 books, right? We've already had a year and 3 months. We've been through 2 springs.
Yeah.
I just like this quote. Egwene was not so sure of Varen's attachment, though. Varen had put herself hip deep in the affairs of the world by being with them, and by tracking the Black Aja, and...
Yeah, she's already hip deep.
Yeah, she commented on secrets a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, Varen knows. I think we've covered that. Varen knows a lot.
You know what I was thinking about? This is a bit of a tangent, but whatever.
This is definitely a tangent-filled episode tonight.
Yeah. You know what I was thinking about earlier when I was reading the upcoming chapters with Varen and Swan, and I was thinking about Varen, Swan, Moraine as like a trio of these who are conspirators, and Swan like very much says it that way.
Sure.
Or thinks it, I forget.
Even though she doesn't have much of a choice except to trust Varen.
Yeah.
She didn't want to bring her into the conspiracy.
And how, I guess, what I was thinking is, so Varen is Black Aja, and I was wondering, what do we know about her contacts with other members of the Black and or Forsaken or whatever? And
Not a lot.
How does she avoid orders in the way that Carradine is like in such a messed up situation now because he has conflicting orders essentially from the Captain General and from Shada Haran?
I assume a little of it is being hard to find, and a little bit of it is looking kind of clueless, but I think she probably is acting under orders. How do you think they know where the Horn of Valyr is in the last battle? They steal it.
Yeah.
The Dark Friend, the Shadow steals the horn. They know they're waiting for it to come out. The only way they could have known where it was is if Varen told them. She did not betray the Black until the hour of her death, which means at this point, even though she's probably still helping the side of the light,
right,
she is obeying direct orders from the Black and probably turning over a fair amount of information. I mean, come on, how else do you get them to trust you? But you tell them the location of the Horn of Valyr.
Yeah,
that's super valuable. And we see Suan say, "I'm going to put this in a place only you and I know about."
Right, her and Varen.
Mm-hmm. So how does the Black find out where it is? Varen tells them.
I was also thinking about this when Swan has the lines where she tells Nynaeve and Egwene that that they're the only. Is it one of the few, or that they're the only 2 women that she can confirm are not Black Aja? She debates about whether or not she trusts Moraine.
Yeah, and she says she has to trust Varen.
Right, which is ironic, right?
Yeah, very ironic.
And Varen altogether seems very trustworthy. Like she's helpful to Light this whole time. In strategic incompetence, I like that in Stone Dog. Yeah, so I guess I just wonder, like, what were her orders? Like, when do they come? I wish we could know more.
I don't have answers for you. So I went to at the con. I went to a question and answer session, and one of the I wish I could remember her name, but one of the folks who works on the notes and knows everything. Probably knows as much as anybody, more than Sanderson. And she was saying, I want to put together a whole thing on Varen and everything that we don't know about Varen. Because, like, we don't know a lot about Varen, but there's a whole bunch of stuff there.
I would call out sick from work just to read that.
You know why Varen's such mystery? We get so little POV from her.
Yeah, almost none.
She's there for everything. And we get, like, 2 POV scenes from her, I think. The whole time. And
she's such an important character. Like, she's there at all these important events.
Totally. And a lot of times when Moraine is not, Varen is shepherding the Two Rivers folks along to their destiny.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I think we referred to the Varen POV where she's creating compulsion, and she talks about picking up little bits here and there and putting it together into something that, she's able to create, but they have to kind of trust her anyway. And so that's a really interesting scene that we've referred frequently because it is so rare that we get a POV from Varen.
Yeah.
But yet she is so involved in what's going on. There's more about Huron here. I'm not sure. We sort of been jumping around quite a bit. He's like, I've got a smell. Oh, wait, it's a hunch.
Yeah, we talked about that. We talked about the encounters in a couple of different villages.
Okay, here's something. He has been staying as far from Varen as he could since we left Toman Head. He always looks at her if he's afraid of what she might say. I think he smells the violence on her. I think he smells that because she's a dark friend, she has violence, and he thinks she smells bad, and he's always looking at her sideways. I think that Varen smells.
Maybe, but she would have to have done violence
right
sometime recently.
Agreed.
No, I mean, I'm there with you.
I'm just giving you a blank stare because, like, I've got nothing. I don't know. I don't have any source of violence. I'm not sure. But they were in Toman Head. Is it possible that she committed some violence while she was there? That she did some things? I don't know. But I thought that was a really interesting quote that Huron was giving Varen a bit of a sidelong glance.
But then he rides up with her here.
Well, it's been a while. Maybe the smell has faded a bit.
Yeah.
And also he's trying to get away from... I mean, it might just be because she's the full Aes Sedai and he's nervous around Aes Sedai. That very much could be it. And now these girls are making him more nervous, and so he is just riding up next to the Aes Sedai because he wants to get away from the girls.
That's true. He leaves them to go hang out with Varen because they're questioning him closely about his feeling about he sees these tracks and he's like, something's wrong with this.
Right.
They're like, well, what? Like horses riding around? What's wrong with that?
He's like, I smell, I feel, hunch.
Yeah. He's just avoiding them. And perhaps he knows that they're also will kind of avoid Varen.
Right. But I'm just wondering why he's been avoiding Varen this whole time. I think it's because he's smelled some violence on her.
I've highlighted that Egwene can feel the source all the time now. It's semi-important, but can't always grasp it.
We're seeing them, progress up the power chart. That's where they are now.
Nynaeve tried healing Matt, but nothing happened, she says.
And so she says she needs her herbs.
Yeah.
I was just wondering, this is sort of one of those, you have to make a throwing motion when tossing a fireball, or Moraine needs her blue stone. It's basically, that's the way you've learned the weave.
Right.
Nynaeve learned the weave with herbs, and now she can't do it without.
Oh, you know what we were talking about in our last session that I found confirmation of somewhere? I don't know if I'll be able to cite it now, but at some point, Elida calls Moraine a wilder.
Sure.
So she is. We were talking about that.
Oh, man. I mean, there's some details in New Spring, but essentially, Moraine learns a few things and then on her own, and then goes to the court Aes Sedai, who starts to teach her, and they sort of cover up a little bit that she was a wilder.
Gotcha.
And says, oh, I was taught by this person, just to hide the shame of being a quote unquote wilder. But she never developed a block.
It's just a dirty word to call her.
Aurelia is saying that Nynaeve gets over this need to use herbs when Elaine gets a concussion, and then Nynaeve has to heal her without the herbs.
Oh.
Good call. So yeah, I mean, the whole Moraine thing is it's a technicality. It's like a slur.
She is a wilder.
Technically.
Yeah.
But she doesn't have the block. She doesn't have any of the, that comes back to the wilder being a derogatory term in White Tower sense.
We also see in the next few chapters one of the accepted. I think it's Faelain.
Faelain? Or Theodrin. Faelain and Theodrin I sort of think of as the same person. There's two of them, but they go, because they're both raised semi-accept to that in-between stage above accepted but below Aes Sedai.
Yeah.
At the same time, because they become devoted to Egwene as Amerlin's seat. They're one of the first to swear to her, and they're also raised.
Aradia thinks they're pillow friends.
Can
we just start saying dating?
No, that's not the terminology in the Wheel of Time. It's pillow friends.
Meant to be ambiguous, I guess.
Aradia has pure speculation that they're pillow friends.
I like it.
Sure,
they're there together a lot.
They're just in the same place at the same time. In the same circumstances.
Conveniently.
And Faelain's the mean one. Theodrin's the nice one. This paragraph, the girls get together and they're sort of talking about what they've taken all the signs and they're deciding what to do if threatened. And you can sort of see how this conversation leads to what happens when they actually encounter the White Cloaks. We can't wait for Varen. We have to just do what we need to do. And they all say, and Nynaeve's like, you two should run off by yourselves.
Yeah.
And they're like, no, we're not going to do it. We're either going to all attack together or all run away together.
They're saying, based on all these signs, if something happens, Nynaeve says, I will do what must be done. The riders arrive shortly after that conversation. And of course, Egwene's the first one to do something about it. But we should talk about the confrontation with the White Cloaks, although it's pretty predictable.
Oh, the other thing that was really gets them going is the fact that they have the Horn of Lear, and they're like, this cannot, they have some urgency, but they know a storm is coming. Huron has told them there's trouble. They have the Horn of Lear, and they need to get Matt healed.
Yeah.
So all of these things sort of combine to make them jumpy as hell.
Oh, right. I forgot about that part. They need to get Matt to Tar Valon, like, right now.
Exactly.
Nynaeve says that she sensed that he had maybe days.
Right. And Varen's not totally rushing.
She doesn't seem terribly concerned.
I mean, it's a little bit of she knows that, like, it's been this long. A couple more hours probably won't make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we see later she brings up the idea of letting him die so they can control who can blow the horn. And I wonder if maybe she's trying to give the Amerlin a very narrow window in which to make the decision.
Yes.
And then also give her an excuse if she does die to be like, well, we just didn't make it in time.
Yeah, I tend to think that she's just kind of like, if he dies, no big deal.
Right. Then we can control who blows the horn.
Right. And if he doesn't, we'll just have to control Matt, which, good luck with that. But I'm sure she thinks she can.
Sure. Well, the Aes Sedai, they think they can control anybody.
So the Children of the Light come riding up. Of course, Varen says, let me do all the talking, but they don't listen. How many is it?
24 24 White Cloaks.
24.
Yep. Led by Bornhall, the son of the man who died at Falma.
Yeah, and that's a bit key here. That's pretty important. But Bornhall demands where they came from, and Varen gives a very Aes Sedai answer. We came from the west. Move out of our way and let us continue. The Children of the Light have no authority here. And we get our typical, the children have authority wherever the light is, which...
Shut up.
Varen just says, I have answered you, and more politely than you deserve. Do you really believe you can stop us? In some lands, you may hold sway by your threats, but not here, in sight of Tar Valon. Can you truly believe that in this place, you will be allowed to carry off an Aes Sedai?
No.
She could just blow them all to smithereens.
Right now, Bornhold is there under the command of Eamon Valda. And we see him get away, try and pull off quite a bit. I wonder how much of that, their presence there, has to do with his command.
To just harry.
Mm-hmm.
I imagine it's to cause problems. Because when the ladies get to Tar Valon and Varen questions one of the bridge guards, he says that he talks about the White Cloaks moving into a village, and then Swan moves troops over here, and the White Cloaks disappear, and they're just harrying.
Mm-hmm.
I doubt that their goal is to combat, because that's not going to work.
Well, didn't they end up there originally because they followed
Elaine
from Camelin to the...
Is that the same group? They're still there?
White Tower? I think so. I think it's the same group. There's no one else who would have been there.
Saying, I'm a princess. You had better let me go. Varen's like, you idiot. It just makes you valuable. It doesn't make you dangerous.
Right. This is part of her growing up, that she has to learn that her mother is not going to be there to pull her bacon out of the fire when she gets in trouble. Right. For now, she still thinks she can depend on the authority of Camelin to help her.
In Camelin, being the daughter heir lends her power, but pretty much anywhere else, it's a weakness. Having this status, yeah.
Good for ransom.
Right. We hear from Bornhall the Younger about the problems in Andor and the kind of tension between Camelin and the White Tower right now because Elaine isn't there.
I think that's not the only reason.
Ravine?
I think Ravine is there.
It's Ravine, right?
Yeah. So we saw him arguing with Ishmael and Bilal
Yeah.
in one of Perrin's dreams. My assumption here is that he's been influencing her and he's attempting to separate her from the White Tower, and that's why she didn't bring Elida back with her. That Ravine was like, no, I don't want any Aes Sedai here. They might detect what I'm doing.
Yeah.
So a lot of this is, I think, an excuse with Ravine using his compulsion to ensure that there's a divide between the White Tower and Caemlyn.
And the next time we get a POV in Caemlyn, Ravine is active there and living in the palace. Yeah.
I mean, he's basically ruling, and in Morghese is brain fried.
Well, they have this conversation, and basically Bornhald threatens to bring Elaine to Morghese and see. I'll read this. Perhaps you will discover Morghese no longer has so much love for witches, girl. If I take you from them and return you to her side, she will thank me for it. Lord Captain Eamon Valda would like very much to speak with you, daughter heir of Andor. He raised a hand. Whether to gesture or signal his men, Egwene could not say. Some of the White Cloaks gathered their reins. There's no more time to wait, Egwene thought. I will not be chained again. She opened herself to the one power. It was a simple exercise, and after long practice, it went much more swiftly than when she had first tried.
And boom, 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 boom. They blow up a bunch of ground in front of the White Cloaks, send them running in panic.
A small patch of ground. This is the first time she does something. She focused on the ground in front of a White Cloaks officer's horse. A small patch of ground. She did not want to kill anyone. The man's hand was still going up. With a roar, the ground in front of him erupted in a narrow fountain of dirt and rocks, higher than his head. Screaming, his horse reared, and he rolled out of the saddle like a sack. Before he hit the ground, Egwene shifted her focus closer to the other White Cloaks, and the ground threw up another small explosion. Bella danced sideways, but she controlled the mare with reins and knees without even thinking of it. Wrapped inside emptiness, she was still surprised at a third eruption, not of her making, and a fourth, so the other girls are helping.
Mm-hmm.
Explosions harried the White Cloaks on every side, showering them with dirt. It's such a ridiculous-looking scene. Nobody gets injured.
No.
They just get dirt all over their clothes, and they all go running. Although it is threatening,
just
but
erupts in front of you, and we see what that does to people when they do it underneath them. It tears horses and people to shreds. It's a warning shot, and it's a
shot across the bow.
Yeah, pretty serious shot across the bow.
And then the White Cloaks were running away, some dropping their bows in panic, galloping as if the Dark One himself were at their backs, all but the young officer, who was picking himself up off the ground. Shoulders hunched, he stared at Varen, the whites of his eyes showing all the way around. He says, "Kill me then, witch. Go ahead, kill me." Varen ignores him.
As you killed my father. That's pretty important.
Oh, yes.
Because he has heard from Child Bayar that Aes Sedai killed his father using the one power. And here he encounters Aes Sedai from Falma using the one power as a weapon against him. It does everything to confirm his suspicions and verifies everything that Child Bayar has to say, including the stuff about Perrin.
Yes.
And so a lot of the girls' actions in this chapter, I think, have a lot to do with why Bornhald is so angry with Perrin later.
Varen's pissed.
Well, yeah.
She says, "What you have done is an abomination."
She quotes the 3 O's at them.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I see their side of it. They didn't actually use it as a weapon. They didn't hurt anybody.
That was my thought while I was reading this, that even if they were sworn to the 3 Oaths, they could have done this anyway.
Totally.
It doesn't, they just scare them away. Yes, Aradia, it was a very unsubtle use, unsuitable to an Aes Sedai, but they're young girls, and they're scared. Nynaeve says, is also convinced that they were ready to kill us, or carry them off and torture them.
And times are changing.
Yeah.
The weapon, it's no longer an option not to use the one power as a weapon. Because you're going to have to fight Trollocs, you're going to have to fight Shadowspawn, you're going to have to fight other Aes Sedai who are trying to kill you. Although, other Dreadlords.
Varen almost certainly could have just talked her way past them.
Sure, eventually.
What are they really going to do?
Yeah, no, I mean, they wouldn't have had anything to do.
Yeah.
But the girls just didn't have the patience for it. They are too on a hair trigger from being basically in enemy territory.
Felt really threatened, and also now they know these weaves, which they're not supposed to know. And yes, Matt could have died while they're standing around talking.
Varen probably has standing orders to kill the 3 boys.
I would think so. I was having that thought earlier, but we don't know her level of contact with the Shadow.
We think she was the Dark Friend Social.
Yeah?
I mean, we know Leandrin was. We think Varen was there.
I don't know, Aradia. That actually brings up a good question. Could Matt's Tavaran nature affect the events around them while he's unconscious?
Oh, yeah, totally.
Yeah?
I have no doubt about that.
He just has to be alive, then, not actually do anything.
Totally. And when we see Rand's Tavaran nature work all the time when he's unconscious, doesn't, whether you're conscious or not, it doesn't turn you off from being Tavaran. You are Tavaran until you are not. Until
you're dead.
Yeah. Or until you're not.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of times they said it can last for a week or a month or, a whole lifetime. But, for example, Rand isn't Tavaran after the last battle anymore.
Because, well, he doesn't need to be, but also the body switch. I guess that wouldn't have anything to do with it.
I don't think it has to do with the body switch. I think he just doesn't need to be anymore. Deus Ex Tavaran. Yeah, I would assume none of the boys are Tavaran afterwards. Well, maybe Matt. Matt, I could see keeping his luck. Especially if he was dealing with the Shan-Chan.
Egwene apologizes to the officer, to Bornhold the Younger. I'm very sorry for what I did, she told the officer. I should not have, and I apologize. I am sure Varen Sedai will heal your bruises. Which sounds more like a threat than...
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't want to be healed. He doesn't want to be touched with the one power.
Oh, and this is where she says, "We have come a long way," Egwene went on, "all the way from Toman Head. And if I weren't so tired, I would never have..." "Be quiet, girl."
Yeah, gave
Varen
way.
Shouted at the same time the White Cloak snarled. And this is when he finds out that they're... Not only is he angry with Aes Sedai because he believes that Aes Sedai murdered his father, but he sees a connection, like that it might have been them.
Might have been them specifically.
Yeah.
You witches killed him for your false dragon. I'll see you dead for it.
Impetuous children, Varen sighed. Almost as bad as boys for letting your mouths run away with you.
Almost as bad as boys.
That's a trope that plays throughout the series. Go with the light, my son, she tells the White Cloak. And he yells his name, Dane Bornhold. Remember my name. And fear it.
And we get sort of these 3, Dane Bornhold, Eamon Valda, and Child Bayar are sort of the bad guy White Cloaks.
Yeah, and major White Cloak characters.
Right.
Yeah.
Valda gets killed by Galad.
Right.
Bornhold ends up stabbing Bayar in the back when he goes to kill Perrin. And ends up leading the troops, the White Cloaks, in the last battle for Perrin, right?
I believe so.
He serves under Perrin in the last battle. Under Galad, who's under Perrin. So, yes.
Egwene said to no one in particular, "I was only trying to make things better."
You failed.
"Better," Varen muttered. "You must learn there is a time to speak all of the truth, and a time to govern your tongue. The least of the lessons you must learn, but important, if you mean to live long enough to wear the shawl of a full sister. Did it ever occur to you that the word Falma might have come ahead of us?" And they have this conversation where they're like, "But how? We've been traveling this whole way, and we haven't run into anyone who heard of it." And Varen says, logically, of course, "Did you talk to all of the people on all of the roads?"
There are these things called ravens, the fact that rumors spread at different speeds and at different rates of playing telephone. Basically, they alter different amounts, and so you can have the same rumor that ends up being 3 or 4 different rumors by the time it reaches. So it's a major point of the book. It follows all of these rumors. I actually really enjoy when he talks about all the various rumors, like when Tom is lists the rumors and stuff like that. And
I like it too.
How they relate to actual events and how they get some things really right and some things really wrong.
Yeah, that is also a major theme in the book. Rumors.
We get one more quote about Elaine being like, "What does he mean about my mother?"
Yeah.
Why would she break with Tarvalin? Because she's under compulsion. But that's that. She would never turn against Tarvalin. She's right, except for the compulsion.
And then I just have the readout, which is Varen's explanation, or Varen's response.
Sure.
The Queens of Andor have always been friends to Tarvalin. But all things change. Varen's face was calm again, yet there was a tightness in her voice. She turned in her saddle to look over them, the three young women, her and Matt in the litter. The world is strange, and all things change. They capped the ridge. A village was in sight ahead of them now. Yellow tile roofs clustered around the great bridge that led to Tarvalin. Now you must truly be on your guard, Varen told them. Now, the real danger begins.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Rate us in the Apple Podcast app or support us on Patreon. Is that good enough?